Welcome to Right
Fucking
Now,
with Mayor
John.
Karen.
What?
I said with Mayor Karen. Here we
And
go.
John, we are fist
Boom.
bumping on Zoom. John, where are you headed?
I am headed to Italy tonight and super excited for a cousin's wedding.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. What city is it in?
It's in Florence.
Oh, it's going to be so cool. I'm so excited for you.
The wedding reception's at a winery in somewhere in the region, which is going to be amazing.
Oh my gosh. You live a pretty good life, don't you, John?
Pretty good life. Pretty good life.
I love it. So, John and I were talking before the show about perspectives, and I was sharing this story. One day a week, I clean at my yoga studio, and I was I get a very short period of time to get this room prepped for the next group because they have classes kind of back to back, and it's hot yoga, so there's a lot of cleaning. There's a lot of pools of sweat for me to clean up, and
Yum.
there are people that tend to linger because I think they don't realize there's another class coming in. That's my only guess. So I've been practicing with different ways of getting them out of there. So this week I turned the light on and these women are like, "Oh, it's so bright." Hold the drama. And then I start cleaning the mirrors. And this woman, she made some comments as she left, like, "Oh, breathing chemicals after doing that. Great. That was worth $25 or something." But apparently she was complaining at the front desk. Like, I was in the room cleaning, so I missed all this. But a bunch of people that know me were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then this one woman's like, "I was in there and that is not what happened. You need to chill out." But it's so funny. What I was talking to John about was whether I had been out there or not, my perspective when things like that happen are it's happening for her and it's happening for me. So anytime
Mm.
people get triggered by something I do, my automatic response to that is "you're welcome." And it sounds maybe insensitive, but what I really believe is there's something that is ready to be healed that is being brought up by whatever's happening outside of you, right? Because you wouldn't see it otherwise. But the other thing was all these people that thought they needed to protect me, which I thought was super
Mm.
fascinating. Like, I don't think I need to be protected, especially, someone's not physically attacking me. Like, so we were just talking about how we can look at things so differently. And for me, because I've done so much work keeping my nervous system regulated, I was 100% fine. And I realized for many people, anytime someone disapproves of them or is angry with them or at them, their nervous system gets dysregulated and they think something like they've done something wrong or they need to apologize or do something to fix it. And for me, there was nothing to be fixed. I got to talk with the girl at the front desk who actually got to deal with the complaint and make sure she was regulated and give her a perspective that for me was empowering. Like, she's about to take over at a new studio that her mom's opening as the manager. I'm like, "Well, this is prepping you, right? Like, and you handled it really well." She's like, "I really did." And so she got to review it and see how she did it. But I would love to hear your perspective, John, on perspectives.
Yes. Oof, I love this topic of perspective. I was listening to a recent Bashar, which really keyed me in to look at perspective more, where he was explaining the structure of existence as he frequently does. And he recognizes essentially there is all that is, or God or source, the singularity, whatever you call it, and everything comes out of that. But the way our reality is working and what we're doing as part of this all that is consciousness is simply shifting our perspective on ourself, and all consciousness can essentially do as a play within itself is change its perspective of itself. So if you're physically changing perspective, if you're experientially changing perspective, if you're emotionally changing perspective, all changes in our own perspectives I see as a way to emulate the creator. And Dr. Joe mentions that a lot. And one of my favorite meditations of his, he's like, to be a creator, you must emulate the creator. I'm paraphrasing to some extent, but that idea that we're ultimately all creators. So the highest love or truth we might be able to offer and experience is that of emulating the creator itself. And all the creator is doing is shifting its perspective on itself. So I find so much power in this. And I love your story because it shows several things to me. One is how much you must have shifted your consciousness to see all the elements you did. For example, you saw some contrast for this one lady, but then several other people around you were, I look at everything in a sense of people either like pushing me up, being like, it's okay, get up there, or like sometimes pushing me down, like we were talking about in the last episode when you're scraping the ceiling of the box. And I see power in both. But in this circumstance that you created for yourself, I see so much reflection of all the internal work you've done. In the outer reality, the majority of people like pushing you up, wanting to support you, the person at the desk benefiting from it, just benefit in so many different ways. And I love seeing examples of when the outer reality is actually bolstering you, and you recognizing within yourself the perspective and being able to completely detach from someone else's perspective and allow them to have their experience without really needing to get involved in it. Very cool story.
Yeah, very cool. And it's really fascinating too, because so many people were like talking badly about this woman. And I'm like, understanding, the way people connect and the way that trauma plays a role in so much of how people show up. I'm like, for her, this is probably one of the only ways she knows how to connect and to get
Mm-hmm.
attention and to actually feel seen and heard and valued. So for me, like, am I going to take that personally? That she's like saying I sprayed window cleaner in her face? I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I I know the truth. I'm not going to defend myself. I'm just I have compassion for her. And, usually I think things are funny, whether they are or not, I find them funny. So that's how I roll. I'm
Yes.
like, to me, it's kind of hilarious, the whole thing. It gave everybody a story too. Like so many people were like, they like banded together, like to like you're saying, like to rally around me. It was like kind of interesting.
Yeah. I see another core element, and that's Abraham's emotional guidance system. Again, I just use this as an example. I have no idea what her actual belief is, but the belief that comes to my mind most frequently when someone's like using chemicals or cleaning around me is the belief I'm essentially thinking, ooh, that thing can harm me. And my
Mhm.
emotional guidance system is giving me negative emotion. And when I ask myself, what would I have to believe is true? I would have to believe something in my external environment could negatively impact me. And as soon as I shift to the belief, I'm infinite, indestructible consciousness, nothing in my reality can touch me because I am the only power in my reality. All of a sudden, my emotional guidance system goes, yeah, that feels really good. And I could, the more I like play with these perspectives, the more I realize how easy it is to find the better feeling thought and use the emotional guidance system to take me in a direction that I prefer to go. And that's how I would perceive it. And in past versions of myself, when I got angry at people cleaning around me for the exact same reason, now I can sit in empowerment and be like, ooh, I'm actually drawing power from this situation. Thank you for showing me this belief. And now knowing I'm infinite, indestructible, no one, nothing can affect me without me agreeing to it, and feel a power in that.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me of your quote, and I don't remember it. So I'm Reverend Ike about facts. What is it?
Mm-hmm. Facts aren't in charge. I'm in charge.
Yes, that's so perfect for this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because we can always find evidence for whatever our case is. I mean, no matter what we believe, will find evidence for it. So why not believe that we are the infinite, indestructible creators and we choose what we experience. And we've called everything to us for a reason. And we get to either learn from it or we can hide from it. But our lessons are coming, I believe.
Yes, that's such a great tie back. And that previous episode where we talked about the chick experiment with the baby chicks and the random robot in the arena, and that idea, the double slit experiment and quantum physics tying in, there's no way to ever conduct an objective experiment. it's paradoxically scientifically proven that the observer is always affecting the outcome. There's no way to separate an observer from any experiment. So I love that idea. Facts aren't in charge. How could they possibly be? My consciousness is the one in, and I can feel my emotional guidance system is like, yeah, right now.
Yeah, and it's just like, even though you've said it a few times, it's like always tying it back and then, oh, this applies to that. It helps me to remember it. And then next time I get to use it, right?
Yes, it's so powerful, and I love chatting with you because I love the real world examples you bring in, and I love your appreciation for my excitement to always tie it back to what I consider like my core broad truths, like the emotional guidance system. I'm the creator of my own reality. I'm always like, how broad of a perspective on what we're talking about can I take to get the best feeling emotion? And I love this game and back and forth we always play
I
in
know.
doing that.
It's fun. Even though I'm
It
not
is
right
fun.
next to you and I can't poke you, I could poke you on the screen.
Poke me through the screen.
Boop.
Boop.
Oh, we're missing. Hopefully it's not going to record the opposite way. Sometimes it does. So it'll be like us poking the outside of it. Like, what are you doing, Karen?
It'll be perfect. Perfect randomness.
There you go. I love it.
Yes.
So what else are you excited about?
I could play more with perspectives in I lost my train of thought, which must mean I'm hopping timelines like last
There you
time.
go. Let's hop. Well, you got to be excited about your trip too. That might be
Oh God,
taking a little
yes.
bandwidth.
It's cool to recognize when beautiful manifestations are like happening and real right around me. We spend so much time playing with contrast in these experiences, but there are moments where you're like, wow, I'm literally experiencing a really exciting, powerful manifestation event right now, and
Yeah.
really leaning into that idea. Abraham presents like a little bit of a paradox, which I love, where she's like, you don't want to be dependent upon your external circumstance for your currently embraced emotions. And I recognize, and then paradoxically, she says, when conditions are really good, milk the fuck out of them because they're amazing. And if you want more of it, so it's a really good reminder. And this is a cool topic to play with too, to recognize when things are really good, to like milk it. Previously, when I was playing this idea of like constant steady emotion, I would almost deny really beautiful manifestation events
Mm.
because I'm like, oh, I'm only feeling good because this is happening in my external environment, and almost discounting it. And now I'm choosing the new perspective to say, hey, when there's beauty around me, lean into it and hit the gas and find every little element to appreciate within it. And I've already been doing pre-paving. I've been seeing myself walking through the airport with wide open space around me. I walk straight up to the TSA guy. There's nothing but open space around, walking right into the plane. I love openness. And we talked about this before. Actually, the last time I was traveling, I realized I was saying no lines, no delays. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm actually practicing lines and delays. So now I'm practicing that like free open space. I feel the suitcase just rolling beautifully on smooth floors and practicing that vibration of it, but really milking the shit out of this awesome adventure that's going to come up, and celebrating. At the core of it is actually like a love celebration. My cousin, shout out to him, is just one of the coolest, most positive, happy, like delightful people to be around. And his future wife is such a kind and beautiful and fun person to be with too. And what a great circumstance to come together and celebrate this with them in such a cool location.
And you have the resources and the time to do it. So it's just beautiful. There's so many things to celebrate.
Yes. And that idea, Abraham, I was listening to another one where she was talking specifically about money, and she always says money is a byproduct of happiness. A lot of times the collective conscious associates happiness as the byproduct of money, but it could never be that way under the actual laws of physics. So again, I can really milk it and appreciate myself for saying I must be focusing in a way where I have the resources right now to do it, and then pat myself again for acting on the impulse. I was like, damn, it'd be fucking awesome to go to this wedding in Italy. And then sometimes you hear the but voices, but this, but that. And to say, fuck it, it's exhilarating. I can feel the emotional feedback that this is for me, and to hit the gas and go straight into it.
Ah, yes. I love
Yes.
all of that so much. And I
Yes.
love, I think it's good always to remind myself and others that what you focus on appreciatively or what you focus on with disgust, whichever thing you focus on, it expands no matter what. So noticing for me, it's like, okay, what am I experiencing right now? That tells me, okay, what have I been focusing on? Because if it's lack or I don't know, people that are mad at me, for example, that's not a good example because that doesn't really bug me. Um, Especially if they're strangers, like what do I do? Right?
Yes.
But I mean, whatever I have in front of me is where my focus has been. So one of the things that I experience so much joy, like so much joy, and it's a lot, is with my dog. Like she's so fun and so loving and feisty. She's like hilarious. She's expressive. And, when I look at her, she's right next to me. Um, it just brings me joy. So if I'm feeling crappy and I don't want to, I can just look at her. I can just, here's what I do. I take off running across my house and she follows me. She like jumps after me. She's like, "Who? Let's play. Let's go, mom." And so, I do things like that because they're fun, number one. But I've mentioned this before, but I have a very low tolerance for the shitty diaper, which means like
Yeah.
sitting in my own excrement and feeling sorry for myself. I have very low tolerance for it. So the moment I notice something like any type of like limiting thought or especially victimy stuff, I'm like, nah, no, thank you. I'm like, no, thanks. I just like take off running.
Yeah.
And then it shifts.
That's so powerful. I love that when the emotions come on, just deciding it's really that simple. Especially Bashar is the one always taking that perspective. Everything is now. It's literally just your focus in the moment, and you have the power to decide. I'm going to shift this focus right now because I'm more excited to play with Joy and running down the hallway than I am to sit in this dirty diaper. And recognizing it is that simple. And if perhaps I don't believe it's that simple, it would have to just be a belief system saying it's not that simple because it really is. And then the more you play with it, the more you prove to yourself it is that simple. And I love the dog example too. Dogs are one of my main go-tos, usually on
Yeah.
Instagram, although they're always plentiful and out and about in the world. And I've been bumping into a bunch of dogs that have mohawks too. I have a collection of mohawk dog pictures, which is just delightful.
You should have a
But
calendar, John.
oh shit, yes.
Ah, that would be awesome.
That's such a cool idea. How many of our fans are going to buy a calendar?
John's Mohawk dog calendar.
Yes, I love this idea. Even if I'm the only one buying it, it's definitely going to happen. I'm making it happen right now.
Do it.
Um, I love the dog example too, because I'll contemplate what is the perspective that a dog must be holding that I'm able to kind of associate with to feel better. And the perspective seems to be like always being 100% in the moment with little to no thought. If you look at most dogs, they're just completely in the moment, always looking for the joy and completely receptive. There's rarely ever an ounce of judgment in them. I can recognize some animals seem to take on focus sometimes, but the vast majority of them are just all in on being open and allowing and accepting of whoever's in their moment, regardless of anything. And I've mentioned this before, I draw so much inspiration from them actually in their capacity to do that and recognizing I can too.
And that's why they never get ulcers. They're always present in the moment. They're never thinking that something shouldn't have happened or thinking about, the time their owner yelled at them. Like they're just in the moment.
That's truly it. I love that. That idea of like using memory to limit yourself. I've been seeing that so much
Mhm.
lately. All memory and all future dreams are basically the same thing. It's just like a cloud of thought that doesn't actually exist in the now. And I've heard several people say that during channelings and other sessions, dogs or relatives or whoever who croaked and were communicating with someone on the other side. I've heard this line several times where the person on the other side, if you will, or not physically present, is saying, "Don't you use me as an excuse to feel bad. That's not what I'm here for." And that's like, you can't really do disgrace to anyone, but in the idea of disgracing someone, the most disgrace you could do is use them as an excuse to feel bad. So yes,
Well, the mind
yes,
plays tricks too. Like it wants, sometimes we'll feel guilt or sadness because it wants you to go back and prevent them from dying. And it believes in separation. It believes in physical existence, right? It's designed to
yes,
protect the body. So, yeah, that's a lot of work that I do with people around grief is there's also that thing like you were talking about, like the disservice. People think if they hold on to the guilt and the grief that somehow it's keeping the other person's memory alive, but really it's just making you feel like shit. That's it. It's and having you focus on the wrong thing, like separation and illusion that they're gone, because energy can't be destroyed or created. There's nowhere for them to go. Yeah, their body's not
yes.
here, but they are still very much here. So I don't know, there's a lot to do around that. I'm taking a grief class starting Wednesday, like with my modality that I do, like helping people deal
Yes,
with grief. So I'm excited about that. I love
very
learning.
cool. Absolutely. And I love the core you just hit on right there. If I look at what's the broadest, most core belief that the mind is using, or I'm actually using the mind in a non beneficial way to believe, and that is that of separation.
Mm.
We know Bashar's second law, the one is the all and the all are the one. There is no separation. The mind is just the mechanism through which we can perceive the idea of separation. And then once a person accepts, believes, and surrenders to the idea that we're separate and things can be lost and gone forever and things can be destroyed and all this, you can see the Pandora's box of negative emotions indicating all these like sub beliefs within separation that come about. And I love going back to that core truth. Wait a minute, we're all actually one. Nothing can ever be created or destroyed or lost. I can create the belief that something's lost and then get it back as an experience because creation is unconditionally loving. And it says, no problem, John, you want to believe something's lost? Let me give you some experiences that'll prove to you whatever you're saying is lost, a relative, a pen, or whatever, right? A house. But ultimately, that's not the truth. And it is so simple to just choose a new perspective and say, it's here right now. I might not be able to see it, but I know it's here right now. Get the positive emotional feedback and move on. And that was actually the thought. It jogged my memory to the thought I forgot earlier, which is Abraham's idea that there's two forms of manifestation. The first form and most important and powerful is emotional manifestation. And then the second is physical manifestation. And she generally acknowledges the physical manifestation takes time, but the emotional manifestation can be immediate and it's more powerful because it's actually creating the physical and the illusion of time. So, really recognizing, as far as perspectives go, one of my most core powerful perspectives is realizing if I can find the better feeling thought, I can look at it. What would I have to believe is true? Find that thought and get the emotion. That's actually the most powerful, beneficial, real manifestation that I can experience is that better feeling emotion on what's going on or happening around me.
I was just thinking about that, like reaching for that next best, like better feeling emotion. Exactly. That is such a good practice. I love it. The other thing that was coming to me is I don't remember.
Yes.
Yes, I did the thing, John. I love it. Oh,
We can.
one thing I do, like, okay. So one thing that I know when the ego's got me, I can only see two choices. Like in any given situation, if you're thinking with the ego mind, you see black or white, right or wrong. I can quit my job and be poor, or I can stay there and be miserable, but I'll have money, like those kinds of things. So what I
Mm-hmm.
love to do is play with my spirit is infinite, infinite, and there are an infinite number of choices. So the moment I can introduce one more possibility, what's just one more possibility? Because there are so many, and then people will start play with it. So a lot of times you have to have someone ask you the question, well, what else is possible? What's one more possibility, one more way, different way you could think about this? And when you start to play with that, then your spirit is alive and the ego mind is like, it kind of crumbles, because the moment you shine a light on it, it's like it can't hold up, because it makes no sense. Like everybody else has a million opportunities, but you only have two choices. Like it just doesn't make sense. But when it's in our heads, we believe it. And a lot of people have that kind of fatalistic thinking, like, well, it's either this or I'll die, or it's either this, I stay married even though I'm miserable, or else I lose all my money because she's going to take it all. Like, what else is possible?
Yeah, I love you tying possibility into here, because my best definition of possibility right now is suddenly becoming aware of a new perspective. It's like in the moment, oh my God, there's another perspective on this, which I hadn't considered before. And that's, I may have mentioned it before, possibility is one of the greatest gifts I see that someone can give me now. And the best example that comes to mind is maybe with illness. You watch Dr. Joe's Source movie of the lady who literally has a thyroid surgically removed and regrows it. And all of a sudden, the perspective becomes aware of, or you become aware of a new perspective, that possibility. Wait, you can regrow a new organ. And being aware of that possibility, all of a sudden, like for me years ago when a past version of me was ill, becoming aware, wait, you can heal a broken spine. Then all of a sudden, almost any illness within that frame of possibility becomes, you can see the perspective, oh, I can definitely heal myself then, like I got this. And then you get the emotional feedback, the manifestation saying yes, yes, yes. It's
Oh,
really cool.
that's so cool. Yeah. And that's what I love. One of the things about Dr. Joe is he's all about showing how ordinary people do the extraordinary, to build that belief in others who are like, yeah, it's good for them, but there's something about them that makes it possible for them. He's like, no, they're just like you and they did it, which means it's a possibility. And therefore you can accept it and believe it and surrender to it if you choose, and you could create this for yourself. I love it so much. And that's what,
Yeah.
at every retreat, we see people get out of wheelchairs and walk. We see blind people see. It's unbelievable. Everyone blows my mind. And that's ordinary people deciding to take on a perspective and do the work.
Yeah. Oof. This song, this midnight song, is coming to my mind where the refrain is, the missing hero is you. And it's
Mm,
that realization, essentially, no one's coming to save you. Someone can kind of offer you a new perspective, which can enable you to save yourself. But the game we're all seem to be playing is being our own hero. We're all on the hero's journey to become our own superstars of our own life, and starting off ordinary and realizing each one of us is anything but ordinary. And these new possibilities are really the avenue through it. I've had this idea a few times to create what I would call like a possibility school, because much of like the collective conscious, you go to school to look at old patterns, many of them very old and very limiting. And I thought, how cool would it be if you went to school all day, or even just for a couple of hours, and everything you're learning about would be people who essentially did something that was previously thought to be impossible, and just saturating yourself in new possibilities and new perspectives, so much so that where awareness goes, energy flows. It just fucking inundates my consciousness till you're seeing possibility in absolutely everything you're looking at, especially in chaos, negativity, like anything. You're not seeing the limitation. Instead, you're choosing the perspective of the possibility within it.
yes. I'm thinking of, I think his first name is Richard, but Bannister, the guy who first broke the 4 minute mile. So it's exactly that. It's like everybody thought it was medically impossible until he did it. And then how many people broke the 4 minute mile mark after that? Like a zillion. I think it was like
Yep.
over 20 the first year. It was a lot, but all it took was one. And it's also reminding me of the book Outwitting the Devil, where it's Napoleon Hill talking about how we haven't learned how to think. And schools and religions are teaching us to think in a certain way, to memorize, to regurgitate, but not to buck the system, not to think beyond it. And you think about what just happened with Dr. Joe having to cancel the Paris progressive retreat, because what? It's bucking the status quo. It's threatening what, has been established as truth. And he's, just pulling all the blinders off and saying, this is not true. This is the truth, right? And you can change the truth. You can experience whatever you want as truth because you're the
Yeah.
creator of truth. I don't know. It's really fascinating. And then certain governments are threatened by that. Certain people, anybody who's really stuck in the status quo will be threatened by that.
Yeah. And I see that choosing a perspective that feels really good on the Dr. Joe thing, same as in my life. I'm like, oh, Dr. Joe is scraping the ceiling
Yeah.
of like a collective belief box right now. Just as in normal life, I'll scrape the ceiling with one person in a belief and feel that friction. And I actually choose the perspective, this is really beneficial and awesome. It's an indicator in physical reality that we're scraping the top of the box now. Like we've eliminated all the space and we're actually right at the leading edge of thought and exactly where we want to be. And ultimately, I know everything benefits me. Everything's playing out to all our benefit. So somehow, in the illusion of time, everyone's going to see why this was a magnificent thing. I can already see some of these perspectives which feel good now, but there's going to be a really good reason for things playing out the way it did. And it's exciting to just
It
ponder how it may be or surrender to the unknown. I don't know, but it's going to be
it's
good.
super exciting. And I know Dr. Joe believes everything's happening for him. And, if you know anything about publicity, no publicity is bad publicity. Like, how many more people are learning about Dr. Joe and are going to find out about him because of this? Like, people that never would have even, he wouldn't have come across their radar. Now they're like, what is this guy? What's he doing that's so different that, an entire government's like saying what? And people that wouldn't have found him that are going to heal their bodies, their minds, generations to come, past and forward because of this. I mean, I see it as amazing. Like, I think it's going to benefit so many people, and it probably already is.
Yeah, that's such a powerful observation. I'm closing a window for a sec because there's some noise outside. Um, that's such a delicious feeling perspective on the circumstance. And you're so right. I love that idea. No publicity is bad publicity because that core concept, whatever you focus on, expands. So the more people are focused on something, regardless of whether there's a no in front of it or not, we're amplifying the focus. So that's really cool. I love that.
And you think about too, like, if you think about the press, I mean, I haven't seen anything and I don't read French or speak it or understand it. But if you think about what they're writing, they're probably going to be including some of his core concepts and they might be making fun of them, right? But so what? I mean, he has so much documentation that anybody with any type of scientific mind or not, anybody with a shred of openness is going to read this and say, I'm curious, tell me more.
100%. And from another perspective, that feels really good. Ultimately, as I shift up to another high perspective, this is all for the fun of it. Abraham always says there's nothing serious going on here. We're all in this game of reality for the fun of it. So I look at some of the best like movies and best stories, and they're frequently that hero's journey. And I recognize shit, you can really only have a hero's journey if you have like some sort of villain or some sort of friction, some sort of devil, something that's pressing against the expansion of possibility. So, in a very paradoxical way, ooh, I'm getting goosebumps right now. If we realize we're all playing the game for the fun of it, we need that in order to have this game. Or like if this is all a video game, which essentially it is, it's just a vibration. You need like if you're playing Super Mario, you need those green little turtles wandering around who are gonna kill you in order to
Right.
have any sort of adventure. There would be no adventure if everything was done. This is exhilarating and awesome to have the back and forth and the play and yeah.
It totally is. It's like without shadows, everything would be white. Like it would all be the same. Like everything would be so bright and it would be glaring and there'd be no beauty in things. Like the shadows are what give things depth and beauty. And I don't know, I'm learning to appreciate it all.
Yeah, that's great. Alan Watts, who I mentioned and love, his one of his big concepts is, especially with he'll use the painting um, like symbol in saying one of the best parts of any painting is actually the backdrop, and your eyes don't necessarily key in on it, but it's such a critical element because it allows whatever the subject of the painting is to pop. So I love that connection you just made. You need the dark for the light to stand out. It's really like a yin and yang and play with itself. And it's paradoxically all beautiful. We need it all and we love it all.
Yeah, it reminds me of being sick. Like when I get the flu or cold, like usually the flu, I just sleep for like 3 days straight and then I'm good. But the moment I'm out in the air again, I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. The sun. It's like, and we live in Phoenix where it's almost always sunny. So it's like that appreciation for the sun came back because I was in the darkness for 3 days. So it's the same thing. It's like, again, we don't notice what's right in front of us a lot of times. And, you know, a lot of people talk a lot about gratitude, like what can you be grateful for? And for a lot of people, they don't even notice their bodies are constantly healing. They're like, oh, but my shoulder hurts. Like, but what about the rest of your body? You're digesting your food, you're pooping, you're doing all the good things. Your mouth produces saliva, you know, like, right? Your heart's
Yes.
beating, you're breathing without even thinking about it. You're metabolizing, you're fighting germs, you're, you know, repairing, you're building muscle. So if you start focusing on, wow, I'm healing really well, even though you might not have been sick, you're constantly healing, then your
Yeah.
body's going to perform better. It's going to feel better. You'll have more energy. But it's that thing. It's like we're trained to be in survival to, you know, for the organism to survive. But what do we focus on then? The potential threats. So it's a retraining, like, okay, the world's a kind place. Like, look at that cute puppy or whatever.
Yeah. Bashar frequently speaks to that when people say, what's the overall purpose of life? Or if I created this experience for myself, why the fuck did I do this? Frequently from the position of challenge. And he says exactly what you said. You chose to forget who you are and then cast yourself deeply in the dark for the purpose of essentially arising in a whole new perspective of yourself by journeying into the light from the depths of the dark. So just like when you're sick for 3 days and all of a sudden you're like, air, sunlight, it's so delicious. From a scaled up perspective, our consciousness chose to essentially do the same thing for the joy and the exhilaration of, I mean, imagine what the actual truth of the joy our consciousness feels in complete wholeness and alignment. It'd be like sunlight and air times 10 when you're coming out after 3 days. We're coming out of potentially of eons or lifetimes of cycling in this idea of separation to realize who we are because we chose to forget, and then really experiencing the light. And we're all obviously recognizing this more and more every day. You know, kind of like the stock market, we might be bouncing around, but there's clearly a steep upward trajectory among all the little bounces towards more joy and wholeness, excitement, peace, and recognition of what's actually happening here.
Yeah, for sure. Ah, it's so good. John, I got to tell you, I feel so good when we have these conversations. I hope
Me
that
too.
everybody watching and listening does too. I mean, I trust they do, or why would they watch or listen?
Fuck yes. Yes, a great core concept. We're playing one game here. We welcome all others who are playing the same game, and those who aren't, we're offering you contrast so you can know more clearly the game you're excited to play. Delete us away. I would be honored to be deleted.
Yes, I mean, beautiful. Oh, so you feeling good?
I'm feeling magnificent.
Ah, me too. Well, thank you everybody for watching or listening to Right
Fucking.
Now. We will be back, what, in a couple weeks, I guess.
Most definitely, yes.
Have an amazing time in Italia, Italy.
Why, thank you. Thank you. Bella. Thank you. Grazie. I'm
Prego.
a, I'm planning to learn key Italian words on the flight over. I think Rosetta Stone is free, is like free on American or whatever. So
Oh, that's
I'm gonna
cool.
learn it
That's
on the
perfect.
way.
Oh,
Yes.
that's amazing. Well, I know a song in Italian, but it's about a cricket, so I don't think it's going to help you. We'll
Will you
play out
sing?
Il Grillo. Il grillo è buon cantore che tiene il longo ver. So dalle beve. Yeah. There's more. It
That
goes on.
that was legit, Karen, and it was jogging my memory to Figaro, Figaro, Figaro. Is that Italian?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Sweet.
it is. Well, there you go. There's your play out. All right. Thanks,
Karen, love you
everybody.
all.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.